From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! Let's go! He's back. I'm Aslan. By he, Corey Clark. Clemson week. So gracious of you to join us once again, Corey. I'm sure you've amassed a small fortune after taking down Biloxi. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. And I did obviously win tons of money. That's what people do when they go on gambling trips. But I decided I still want to keep my job. I don't want to get bored. I want to have something to do, a reason to get up in the morning. So that's why I'm still doing the show.
If you win the Mega Millions, you still coming in and talking to Harlan at 8:42 in the morning on a Wednesday?
Oh, no. There's zero chance that would happen. I would still want to work at War Chant in some capacity, but there's no way I'd be up at 8 in the morning to interview anybody there. It's not just a shot at Harlan. It's a shot at any of them.
Yeah, we like Harlan. What would you do? Would you just simply be just come to the games and just write, I'll write a column, Myra. I'll write it when I'm ready. Get off my back, show fell. I'll write one, though, but that's all I'm going to do.
I think so. I think that's what I would do. That would be a dream job. I could still maybe do this once a week, maybe.
Oh, okay.
You and I would have to do the other 4 days, but I think I could do 1 day a week. I could be bothered to do it when it depends on what island I'm living on, right, obviously, and how easy it is to get back to Tallahassee.
And how good the infrastructure is at said island for the
True.
call-in segment. Speaking of the call-in segments and whatnot, folks, we're going to do Renegade Express tomorrow. We'll take your questions. We're also contemplating perhaps at some point maybe doing some sort of live Renegade Express where we'll stream on YouTube, like video. You'll be able to see Corey and I, and you can just kind of fire off questions and we'll answer them, and then we'll just take that and run it as an audio portion during the podcast. It's a pie in the sky thing, but maybe it'll happen one of these days. But also, give us a call. That'll be part of the phone call Friday, 850-792-5730, 850-792-5730. That'll be on Friday. And before we go any further, if you're not going to the Notre Dame game, your loss. It's going to be an epic upset. If you are going, cool. If you're thinking about going, check out GameDayExcursions.com. They've got plenty of travel packages for the ultimate Florida State fan, for the ultimate trip to South Bend, Indiana for the Notre Dame game. It includes a yacht party in Chi-Town. Chi-Town, that's what the kids call it, right, Corey? Chi-Town?
Absolutely. I think the kids still call it Windy City.
The Windy City. The Windy
Yep.
City. It's not the Windy City because of the climate, because of the meteorology of the city, right?
It's really windy there, though.
Supposedly, I know what one of my teachers told me, it's because of all the politicians there back in the day. They lied so much. They had like a reputation as being a bunch of like seedy politicians that they called it windy because they're like blowing wind. They're like lying all the time.
Well, I can see it could have a double meaning, right? But I mean, it's also really windy there, right?
I don't know.
Coming off the lake?
I guess, right? Yeah, all that lake effect, snow and wind and whatnot. So anyhow, check out GameDayExcursions.com. If you want to go to the Notre Dame game, I'll be there. Ira will be there. Gene will be there. It'll be fun times. All right, Corey, it's Clemson week. This is the week we've all been waiting for. We've circled it. We've squared it. We put a triangle on this date. Ira brought lots of optimism and hope. I just sat here and let him go with it so that the fans could get what they want. You and I, with our unique perspective on life and athletics, maybe sometimes are not as optimistic. How are you feeling right now? What are your thoughts going into this game before you've been able to speak to Harlan Barnett and the defense? Are all eyes going to be on the defense or all eyes going to be on the offense? What do you think, partner?
I'm thinking the offense. I think I expect the defense, and again, trust me when I say this, there's always the caveat that I could be 100% wrong. I think the defense will play well, and I think they will slow Clemson down. I know that kid's a really good quarterback, and they got some serious weapons. The running back's really good. He seems like he scores 3 touchdowns a week. But I just, it's a true freshman quarterback. I don't know that he's been in an environment like this and played well. He played at it does help Clemson that it's a noon game. and then it's a 4-3 Florida State team as opposed to maybe a 6-1 number 9 in the country Florida State team. But it's going to be a different type of atmosphere, and I think it's going to be the best defense he's seen. Certainly the what he sees up front. So I'll be interested in see what he does, but I think the defense will hold its own. I mean, I think what would you say if you hold Clemson to 28 to 30 points? That's a pretty good day.
Oh yeah,
considering what Clemson normally does and can do. So, but it's that other side of the ball, and are they going to be able to move the ball against that Clemson defense? I think the Clemson secondary I don't think is great, or at least it's young. But again, the front four, you just got to figure out a way to manage it somehow. You got to figure out a way to manage plays where your quarterback where you're not always at 2nd and 16, because you're not going to win like that. So that's I think that's right to think that the offense versus the Clemson defense is the matchup that really, really concerns you.
I think the offense plays okey doke. I think they rope them in. Lots of little, let the rush come in, little dinks over the top. That's what I think is going to happen. I feel good. Not really.
Okay. All right. Well, that's one way to look at it. Good, man.
I think, this is one of the things where when you're a 2-touchdown underdog, you start talking more about the esoteric and sort of emotional aspect of a game like this. Freshman quarterback coming into, I guess we're calling it a hostile environment. I'm not trying to talk down the Florida State fans. I love the folks. Since I've been, going to Florida State games, back to my undergrad days, I've never thought of Doak Campbell as like an intimidating place to come play. Every now and then you get us in the right situation, like a 2010 Oklahoma. We'll come out. 2014 Notre Dame, but even back in, even in the heyday of Jameis and what have you, it wasn't like teams got off the bus and they were already down 3-0 because they were walking onto a hollowed ground. And then it's a noon sort of game, which doesn't bring out the best in some folks. I saw President John Thrasher, even made a tweet, or there was an infographic thing tweet from him that the football account, I think, sent out telling the fans how important it is for them to turn out, which is crazy. I guess you do have to make a call to arms, but these sort of things, these emotions, these things that call to the emotions of fans and players, I don't know. They never seem to really dictate the outcome of football games. The better teams win. The more tightly coached teams, and not tight, I'm not saying in terms of overthinking things, but just in terms of being sound and not getting crazy pre-snap penalties and things like that. Those teams seem to win these games. Like Clemson's going to have to beat themselves. That's the only way I see this game turning out in Florida State's favor. I don't think Florida State's going to beat Clemson. If they win the game, Florida State, I think it's going to be because Clemson lost it. Clemson beat themselves. Clemson is doing crazy things like giving up first downs on 3rd and 15 on pass interference, or they muff a punt, or they miss field goals. Things like that I think are going to go to Florida State's favor, not necessarily things that the plays that you dictate. It's not like you necessarily go out there and make a play. I think Clemson's going to have to choke up to let Florida State win this. And I don't buy into the whole, this is a very hostile environment. It's going to be a really tough situation for a true freshman quarterback. He's going to buckle, because I don't think there's a lot of pressure on Clemson. I think they've got to get out of jail free card. If you win the ACC with one loss, I think you're going to the playoff, just with the way the Pac-12 looks like. The Big 12 will probably be the fourth team in there. I don't know if this is going to be another year where two teams from the SEC get in. Probably winner of like Michigan, Ohio State's the third team, and then like the ACC's the other team in there with Alabama. So I don't know. I don't see Clemson coming in here with a mindset of playing tense, playing tight, and being intimidated by anything that Florida State's going to throw at them.
Yeah, I think I would I think I would counter that by saying I don't think that the atmosphere will be electric at 12:45, no matter what's going on. If it's 250 and Florida State has a, say, 24-20 lead, that play, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's a noon game. At that point, when the fans are believing, it can rattle teams, man. Florida State, I don't think many of us expected them to compete with them 2 years ago. Was that 2 years ago? The Dalvin play?
Oh yeah.
Were they? Yeah. So I didn't go into that game thinking Florida State had much of a chance. I just didn't. And they're up in the fourth quarter, and that place is going nuts. And quite frankly, I do think Deshaun Watson was rattled. He didn't play well at all until what's his name? What, I shouldn't be that dismissive. Was it Trey Marshall? Yeah. Somebody got kicked out of the game, and they had to put, I think, Armon Lane or somebody back at safety, and they started scoring points. But I do think that defense was rattled because where were they? What was going on where Dalvin Cook just had these huge holes to run through? And I think the crowd had a direct impact on that game. Negatively at the end, when everybody lost their mind because Jimbo lost his mind about the bad block in the back call. But I do think that's when a crowd, I think, can play a part, is when they start to believe. And this kid's never been in that position, man. And I'm sure there's no reason to think he won't handle it well. There's really no reason to think he'll be in that position, but we don't know. So until you don't know how these people respond to that kind of stuff. Respond to I'm saying 245, hostile atmosphere with real pressure that you might lose a game. I mean, we'll see. And I know you say that they think they can lose and still win, and they probably can. I can't imagine a scenario, maybe Notre Dame. I don't know how.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Notre Dame.
Notre Dame could be there, maybe Texas. I don't know. But, I mean, there's still going to be pressure for them to win the game because, they come in as heavy favorites. They're playing an offense that doesn't do a whole lot on the ground. They should win the game. And if they don't play well, things can unravel. They unraveled for them at Syracuse last year. Now, they didn't have this kid at quarterback, obviously, but it unraveled for them. And so that's what you got to hope. But you're right. I think the biggest takeaway of what you said, from my personal viewpoint, I'm sure other people were nodding along as you talked, was you're going to need some breaks. You're going to need to – you got to win the turnover battle. You can't go committing 2 or 3 turnovers in this game and expect to win. And you need to make some plays on defense. And, I mean, strip sacks, pick sixes, block a punt. You've got to do something because you're not, just man-to-man, roster to roster, talent for talent. You don't stack up with this team. And so you're going to need a couple of breaks. This is weird, man, to talk about. I'll be honest with you. When was the last time they were this big of underdogs at home? Do we know? Has anybody looked that up?
I saw somebody make a thread on it on War Chant. I should go back and search for it.
I wouldn't have like 2008 Florida would have been. I would have thought maybe that team.
I think it's that game. Yeah, you hit that.
Is it? What was that spread?
12.5, I want to say.
Well, I know. So this one's bigger than that. So I'm thinking like a 16, a 17-point underdog at home. I mean, you might be going back to like the pre-Bowden days. I just can't fathom another time where they would have been this big of underdogs at home, even during the lost decade. So this is just a weird game to talk about. I don't think Clemson is that much more talented than Florida State, but on that defensive front, they are more talented, number one. But on that defensive front, against that offensive line, it's such a mismatch that you got to figure out a way to combat it, or it could, that would be my biggest concern, is that if you don't have a way to try to somehow coach around that, and like you said, that's not a bad idea. Short, quick passes, maybe some stuff over the middle. Don't let those guys just, pin their ears back, because you can't win that way. So you're going to have to hope. You have to hope you get lucky, and you're going to have to game plan a little bit, because you know what the deal is, man. They know what the deal is. They can't block those guys. So you got to figure out a way around that, which is, good luck.
Well, hopefully we'll get some clarity on that when Ira talks to George Henshaw. Called in a favor and asked Ira to ask George Henshaw when he does his Henshaw's House segment, what do teams do? Because this is the easy thing, right? The guy who doesn't know anything about football sitting here talking into a microphone saying, well, you got to do fast, you got to do quick pass game. You got to do screens. Use their aggressiveness against them, Clemson, and there were so many times where in that Miami game, or not so many times, there was 2 times. One of them worked out perfect. The other one would have worked out perfect, but apparently Trey ran the wrong route where it was 3rd and long. And Florida State didn't throw it anywhere near the chains, but they had cleared enough, space out to where Trey McKitty had it underneath and had a whole bunch of yards after the catch. And that moved the ball down the field. I do think Florida State's shown the ability. I know Miami, I don't think they're the greatest team out there, but that was a tough game. I think Miami's still riding high, obviously. That, this team, this coaching staff does have ways of moving the ball despite some of the, shortcomings up front, what have you. But ultimately, I don't know. I feel like we're going to sit here and talk about the obvious things that you would do to help, stymie or help neutralize Clemson's front four. But I don't know. I don't know if Florida State will try to do anything all that different than when they've done the last few weeks. It just might be one of those things where guys need to step up. Like, offensive line needs to find a way, get in the way, hold your block.
Or just hold.
Yeah. Just, run the Jawan play and just, just curve your hand a little bit, just a little bit so it doesn't look as, I don't know.
You got to do some, maybe not so obvious where you're just pulling him in the back and holding him like a dad will do to a little kid when he's playing that game with him, where he'll hold his shirt and he'll run and he won't go anywhere. That's kind of what it looked like. Like, you can't do that, but man, hey man, I wrote a story about it 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer ago than that now. Like, they never called other teams for holding Florida State in the 90s, ever. Like, right. Florida State's opponents never got called for holding because the referees knew the deal. They could call holding on every play. It wasn't fair what was happening, and they felt sorry for the offensive lines that those defensive lines were decimating. So flip the script, man. Come on, officials. Let Florida State hold a little bit. You've done it. We know you can do it. Let them hold. Otherwise, they can't block those guys. Clemson's too good anyway, so just let them hold like 80% of the time and not call them. Then you got a fighting chance and you might have a good game.
What you missed during War Chant Report was the fact that the whole forward pass fiasco against Miami. What's the likelihood if this game is close, right? Take Clemson to the deep waters. Take them into the fourth quarter, close game. It's 2:45 in the afternoon. The fans are still full throat and going crazy. If there's any sort of 50-50 play, like the likelihood of crazy flags being thrown to preserve who's now the golden goose in the ACC, which is Clemson. I don't like entertaining those sort of things, but to some people, I guess that's in the back of their mind just because of historically what's happened in this game. Even going back to that game 2 years ago, the illegal block in the back on, I don't know, was it Freddie Stevenson or whatever? Just that sort of phantom call, if you will. Like, how heartbreaking will that be for Willie? Like, 2 big games, and then some sort of crazy call changes the dynamic of it.
But, I could see that, but like, we have what do we have now? 25 years of proof that the ACC really doesn't like or look to take care of its elite football programs. I don't think anybody could think over the last quarter century that they've gone out of their way to keep Florida State, on top. There have been a lot of calls that kind of you shake your head and go, what in the world? But there haven't against Florida State. You can't think of too many off the top of your head where they went in Florida State's favor, even though Florida State has made bukus of money for the conference.
Buku.
Maybe it's different now with the TV. Maybe in the 90s they didn't think like that about TV and how much money they were making for going to the postseason and all that. But now, so maybe it's different. Now they do. But I don't see that. We have a lot of history that the ACC doesn't take care of its elite programs. But if they want to scoot some balls forward,
okay, we'll take
it. Come on, just a little bit to help Florida. I think it'd be better. Wouldn't it be better for the conference? Well, no, it probably wouldn't, because you'd be worried you'd miss out on the playoff. But I was going to say, if Florida State could beat Clemson, then okay, well, that would be a really big win for the conference. Not as big a win as it would be for Florida State, but it would be like, all right, maybe Florida State is close to being back, and that will be a good rivalry again in the future. Because you don't want a rivalry where one team consistently beats the other team.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is according to...
By the way, real quick, if you're a conference.
Right.
If you're a Florida State fan, obviously you want to keep beating Florida for the rest of your life.
This is from a poster on Tribal Council. He goes by the moniker Parlay Gambler. Sounds legit to me. At the time, it was a 15-point spread with Clemson being favored. According to him, this would be the second biggest home underdog Florida State has ever been. Florida was a 16.5-point favorite in 2008 at Doak.
Okay, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. And Florida State did not cover that game, if I remember correctly.
No. That was
well, you can't win them all. That was a really good Florida team and not a great Florida State team.
Yeah, But, hey, look who's laughing now.
And also, Florida State did have a Rhodes Scholar on their team that year.
Yeah, take that, Tim Tebow.
Yeah, you guys certainly didn't have Rhodes Scholars on that team.
Yeah, go lose to Ole Miss again, bum. All right, we're going to step aside. I'm going to try to get optimistic. We'll come back, maybe talk a little bit more about Clemson and whatnot. But when we do come back right after this, we're going to have Michael Langston talk about just how important of a weekend this is for Florida State's recruiting fortunes. Willie Taggart was asked, what does Florida State have to do to get back on Clemson's level or to take back the ACC? And Willie Taggart said they need to win, and they got to recruit. So we'll talk about the second part of that equation right after this here on Wake Up War Chant.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And some Mountain Dew, Malibu, Cuervo, Coke in a cup. Brother, I can hook you up. I can fix a drink.
Welcome back to Wake Up War Chant. Remember, folks, we'll do Phone Call Friday on Friday, Renegade Express Thursday. The number to call for Friday, if you'd like to get involved, is 850-792-5730. We go to the phone line and bring in WarChant.com recruiting analyst Michael Langston. Man, you're supposed to be able to kind of chill a little bit during the season, Michael. But this is one of these games that you're going to be probably busier than all of us in the press box, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just getting ready for these. Got some big recruiting weekends coming up for FSU, so just just getting focused and ready for
before we talk about the guys that are coming in for Clemson, I think the one of the bigger names, or maybe the biggest name that was on campus last week for homecoming against Wake Forest was William Putnam, the offensive lineman from Plant High School in Tampa, Florida. He seems to be a pretty high priority for this coaching staff. I know you had a write-up on him and got to catch up with him afterwards. Where do you sort of put his stock or Florida State stock when it comes to William Putnam right now?
Well, I'd say it's pretty high. I mean, the main thing I'd focused on this weekend was, or last weekend when he visited, was, how he connected with the players, because that's a big thing to him. It's a big thing to be comfortable with the place that you could possibly go to. And I think FSU had a home run in those both of those areas. So I think things look pretty good. I mean, it's not done deal or anything like that, but I would say right now FSU is the favorite. I think coming in the visit, I would have given a slight advantage to Auburn, but I think FSU really nailed this one hard, and still going to take a Clemson visit, so that's another team to worry about. But I think I think it's going to come down to Clemson, FSU, even though everyone mentions Auburn a lot. I just think those two teams. I think FSU surpassed Auburn in my opinion, and I think probably come down to that last visit. But but I will say this with FSU and Auburn, they had the relationships, whereas Clemson hasn't really built a strong relationship with Putnam, and two, they haven't had him on campus as frequently as FSU has. So I think that's a big advantage. But I think FSU got everything they wanted out of this visit that they had last weekend.
Michael, we keep talking about the small improvements this team has made ever since the Syracuse loss. Just it seems like every single week they've gotten better. They might not have the wins to show for it, for example, against Miami, but it just seems like the product on the field looks better week to week. Is that something that you're sensing the recruits are starting to pick up on as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of the recruits kind of sensed that in the Louisville game. Just wasn't perfect by far,
right,
but it was a good flow to everything. You started seeing turnovers on defense, with the defense forcing turnovers, and then the offense you see making a big play late in the game to win the game, and then it kind of continued on when they went to Miami, where they played a really good first half, and then second half things kind of fell apart. But kids saw what they can be, and then also when you play the way you did against Miami and you play the way you did against Wake Forest, what it does is it magnifies what your issues are, which is offensive line and linebackers. And then kids see that and they're like, well, they're flowing. I think they just need me. I think I can turn this around and give them to take that next step. So that's why I tell people every week, like, them improving and them progressing is really going to be big in recruiting for a lot of these kids. So I think a lot of these prospects have seen this. They're energized. Now, obviously, after coming off a comfortable win, going into a big game against Clemson, I think these recruits and commits, I think they're energized to see, let's see where FSU stands as far as just how good are they. We'll find out, this Saturday. But I think kids are energized about them.
WarChant.com recruiting analyst Michael Langston joining us here on Wake Up War Chant. All right, Michael, I know you're dialed into every single prospect pretty much on the board for Florida State, but I know a lot of the folks who might not be as dialed in when it comes to recruiting, at least in this part of the season, they're always curious about the 5 stars, right? They want to know about the 5 stars. Will there be any of those blue chip 5-star guys on campus for the Clemson game? Yes,
there'll be. We have one official visitor in Cardell Thomas. He's the number 1 guard in the country. He will be on campus. Me and you kind of saw him at the 5-star challenge, and certainly he was very impressive. He's an LSU commit, so he will be on campus, as well as Carvarius Crouch will be there, who we also saw on the spring tour. Yeah. He's a 5-star athlete. FSU likes him at linebacker. A lot of people were thinking, like, we had talked to this week about. A lot of people thought that he wouldn't go because there's Sam Howell's trying to work out their travel situation, and apparently he's going on his own. He's not riding with Sam at this time. So I think that's a significant thing where kind of shows you his interest level and, wanting to see more of FSU. But those are the 2 big 5 stars that are coming. We have a full list on War Chant, but those on paper, those are the 2 5 stars that certainly will be locked in to see how the visits go.
Cardell Thomas wasn't he on campus for the Saturday Night Live thing during the summer?
Yes, he was. He was there as well. So it'll be interesting because he hasn't visited since then. So, LSU is obviously having a good year, so that's helped their cause. But just having him back on campus, the fact that he wants to take an official, I mean, when you take an official, you kind of signifies, hey, I'm serious about this. I want to see what you guys have to offer. So it'll be interesting to see what he says afterwards. Certainly not going to be an easy pull because of what LSU is doing this year and stuff like that. But he certainly has a connection with Fry, certainly has a connection with this FSU staff. So certainly seems interested in, certainly the Noles.
You and I made it up to Charlotte over the summer and hung out with Sam Howell and Quavaris Crouch on 2 separate visits. It seemed like maybe Crouch's recruiting was going to be a little bit kind of under the radar. What has kind of developed with him since the football season has started in terms of maybe the teams he's looking at and just Florida State's sort of chances with him?
Well, I think you kind of hit it right on the money that he was going to be mum about it, and he has been mum about it. He's hasn't really gone that many visits. He went to Clemson last week. His brother plays for NC State, so he wanted to watch that game. And Clemson's also a team that he's highly interested in. I think it's going to come down to Clemson and FSU, and just in my opinion, Clemson obviously with what they do with the team, and then and it's close to home. But then with FSU, I think he really has built a strong bond with Raymond Woody, the linebackers coach. He's leaning more towards playing linebacker now. So I don't think he really has a set-on leader, but, gut feeling, you'd have to say Clemson because he's visited there for a game. FSU, he hasn't. But, after FSU, we might have a different view of that. But he's certainly very interested in FSU. This isn't just like, oh, I'm taking a visit and, I'm not that interested in him or I'm just having fun. I mean, he's actually taking this visit, plus he's also going to come for the Florida game for an official visit. So this is just an unofficial visit. So I think it'll be a battle, and I think FSU's right in the thick of there with Clemson. I think the key this week is to show on the field type of stuff. You want to see, obviously, a good performance by FSU would be big, and 2, just how he connects with the players but I think this is a big visit for FSU's chances, and it'll kind of set up that official visit coming up later for the Florida game.
Yeah, those unofficial visits, those are being paid right out of the pocket of the recruit or his family, so that's always a big gesture when they're able to do that. The bye week has come and gone, obviously, with the Wake game being past us. We sort of thought, or you thought, that maybe that bye week would maybe bring some clarity in terms of maybe new guys coming on the radar for Florida State, maybe JUCO guys or anybody on the offensive line. Have there been any new names that have kind of surfaced in the last 2 weeks for you that you might have not been totally aware were on Florida Start's radar, but now are on the radar?
No, I think they're actually keeping that pretty quiet. They're not giving away that too much. I'm not saying they aren't visiting these guys that are JUCOs, because I think they are, but we haven't really heard. It's kind of been quiet about what guys they're after. I know they're going to go hard after some JUCOs. I mean, that's a given from what I hear. And I think we'll hear more about these guys probably, if I had to guess, next week. It wouldn't be surprised if they've already offered some of these guys, but they're kind of just keeping it quiet. They don't want to tip off other people, but I'm sure we will learn more about this in the coming weeks. But I'm pretty confident it's supposed to happen soon. But we put like 4 names out there on our site last week for a recruiting chat, or a couple weeks ago, and so I didn't want to really detail each one because I want to wait till FSU offers, and then when FSU offers some of these guys publicly, then we'll do another offensive line hot board. But as of right now, it's kind of we're in a holding pattern of wait, and we'll just have to wait and see who gets an offer.
He's got the best sources in the game, folks. He's Michael Langston, WarChant.com recruiting analyst. Check out WarChant.com and the premium recruiting board for the very latest Michael's lists, hot boards, things like that. He's always got you covered. Michael, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. All right, folks, we're going to step aside, come back. Let's talk more about this whole Clemson game. It's going to be a big one. We'll do that right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, low-carb beer for the Seminole soul. Back to Aslan and Corey.
Yeah, the drink that we're drinking, the smoke that we're smoking, the party we're throwing, it's going all night long when the lights come on. Welcome back.
Wake Up War Chant. Corey, how are you?
Aslan, I'm good, buddy.
It's tough. Like, I don't want to sit here and pull out the violin because I always just think about poor Jeff Cameron having to do this 3 hours a day. And no disrespect to the great Tom Lang, but I mean, come on, you're Corey Clark. I got a really good 5-star guy to lean on. 5-tool, 5-star.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, what do we talk about now? Like, this is a game. Ultimately, I don't think Florida State's going to win. I don't want to sit here and make people feel bad about Florida State. I don't want to sit here and talk bad about Florida State, talk down about Florida State. But this is a game that just looks very daunting. And, I think in the first segment, I was probably a little bit too negative for most people's liking. Sorry, but not really. Unless you're a subscriber, then I am sorry. It's just one of those weird things. Again, Ira was kind of questioning me about this the other day where he's like, I don't follow you, Aslan, with this whole, you're not looking at week-to-week improvement. You're looking at these spurts during games, and you're just taking pieces from it. He's like, are you evaluating the coaching staff? And I don't want it to come off that way, but I mean, that's probably a good way, I guess, to kind of put it. I don't want to maybe say just evaluating the coaching staff, but just evaluating everybody on this team because it is a new slate. It's a new day. #Taggart era. #do something. So I think maybe this game is just another one of those where I should just kind of stick to my guns and just certain situations, see if they can get off the field, if they can create a turnover, if they can get a big first down, and maybe not worry so much about the result. Focus on the process, perhaps.
That's always smart. A lot of people have said that over the years, that you should focus more on not you, but one should focus on the process and not so much the results. You don't want to get caught up in the results. If you do things the right way, eventually the results will take care of themselves. I've been told that many times in my life. But yeah, man, I look at this kind of how I looked at the Miami game. Like, they should have won the Miami game, but win or lose, they were a much better team than they had been the week before, in my opinion. So it's the same thing. They might play really well on Saturday and still lose by 10 points or 13 points. So I don't know that we could just say, well, they lost, so it's a disappointment.
Right.
They lost, so not again. Florida State's not in the business of moral victories. Never should they be. And they should be disappointed and hurt and crushed if and when they lose. But man, as a fan, looking at it from the outside, seeing improvement is what you want, because again, you're hoping this thing lasts for a decade, right?
Yeah,
2 decades.
Yeah.
If things go well, you want him to retire here. You want him to be your Dabo. You want him to be a guy that is here and keeps it sustained for a long period of time. I don't say Saban because I just don't think anybody else can ever approach what he's done.
What is he doing? How does he do it? It's not fair.
I don't get it, man. I really don't. I mean, I know
amazing.
he's obviously a football savant. He obviously has created a culture there. He's the perfect coach for the perfect place that will give him everything he wants. They embrace that kind of attitude. I don't. What I think is the biggest, the best thing about his program, the thing that's mind-boggling is, look, Florida State went on a run like this similarly in the 90s, obviously in the early 2000s, late 80s or in all through the 90s, where they were really good every year. But in those games, it seemed like, how many teams did they play that could even stay on the field with them each year? 3 maybe. I know Alabama's got the way college football is now with the parity. I know Alabama's got more talent than everybody else, but it's not worlds better than everybody else where they should keep winning 12 games, 13, 14 games every year, and that they still are hungry. All of it. Like, why don't they have their 2014 season that Florida State had? And I know Florida State won all those games, but that was a different team than the 2013 team. A lot of the same players, completely different vibe, where they kind of, quite frankly, didn't play well for long stretches of that. Why doesn't Alabama ever go through that? Do they? Have they had? You were over there. Did they have a season that was even close to that, where people were like, "Oh man, this might be the end"?
Not on a week-to-week basis. I mean, they did have. I mean, they lose games. I mean, they lose a game every year. But yeah, there's not that week-to-week nail biter. Like, why are they not playing up to their talent? It doesn't happen over there. It's really remarkable. It's just really remarkable what he's done and what he's built. But that being said, to get back to the original point, there's not going to be another Nick Saban. There can be another Dabo. And Florida State fans have to hope that this is the guy. That this is the guy that can be here. Dabo's been there, a decade? And the program just keeps getting better, or at least sustaining itself at the very top of the mountaintop of the mountain. I guess you can't be on the top of a mountaintop. That's just, you're the top of the mountain. It's self-explanatory. So that's what you're looking for. That's what the rest of this season is can you see enough improvement to really start to buy in? Okay, this guy does have it. This guy does have something in him. This coaching staff can do this. They can instill this in the players. They can make adjustments from week to week. They can look like a completely different team than they did in week 3. And then you go into next season thinking, all right, well, the growing pains of the first 3 weeks, which were incredibly ugly, are all gone. And no matter how the season ends out, you have some momentum going into 2019. Because, again, it's hard to – I know it was only a month ago, but it's really hard to kind of wrap our minds around how bad they were those first 3 weeks of the season. Oh, yeah.
Don't they feel like a different team?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, they're capable. They're competent. They're competent. They're not. I mean, I'm not.
But yeah, I guess every game really is a referendum on coaching. But I don't think it's a referendum on, is this the right guy because of week 7 in his first year, or week 8, or I guess it's week 8 of his first year. I don't think this game is a referendum on that, but I do think you're always looking for improvement. So this will be a good time to show some.
You mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned on the show or just when we were walking back and forth to the stadium or after the game against Wake, but you were talking about looking at the way Florida State played, the same team last year, comparing like the outcome of the 2017 Wake game versus last week. They needed a last-second touchdown to break a tie in Winston-Salem last year. And this year they're cruising and getting all sorts of freshmen playing time. And you're just talking about look at the amount of points they put up against, Wake Forest this year versus last year. That just shows you, things are moving in the right direction. Well, what happens if this Clemson game gets maybe a little bit sideways and then it doesn't look like Florida State's not in the game in the fourth quarter the way they were last year? Like, are we going to pick and choose what we think is a good comparison, or does that apply across the board?
Yeah, no, I think it applies across the board. I mean, I think when you look at some of it is the timing of the game. Now this one's about the same time as the one last year, but I was bringing up like the Syracuse game.
Okay.
Like I think if they played Syracuse this week, I mean I don't think any of us would expect 30-7. Right. Maybe they would go up there and lose. That's certainly on the table, but it would be a much harder game for Syracuse. With this one, yeah, man, I think that's the you look at, so they've played 3 common opponents from last year, or 4, I guess now. The Syracuse one was obviously much worse than how they performed against Syracuse last year. Although again, they needed a missed field goal to not go to overtime, but and they won that game. Then the Louisville game, they beat a team that last year they lost to. The Miami game, I think we could both agree they played much better this year against Miami than they did last year against Miami.
Yeah.
And then the same with Wake. Now Wake's defense isn't as good as it was last year, but still they beat a team that last year a pass was in the end zone on the last play of the game that could have tied the game. This year they were up by whatever it was, 24 points. So those are all good signs. But yeah, if you at home lose to Clemson 40-8, then yeah, I think people are going to be right. Just like I think that the Wake game was an improvement. I mean, it was a nice positive step to show the difference between last year's version and this year's version. I think it would be fair to say, well, yeah, man, but then the same rule applies here. What the heck happened? I will say this: there is one difference. The quarterback. Last year they got to play Kelly Bryant, and that kid just isn't any good. Sorry, isn't all that good. I don't want to diminish him completely, but this guy's a lot better quarterback than Kelly Bryant. Right. So that would be my one difference. Just like if they played Alabama this year, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if Alabama was their team that they opened the season with, holy moly! They got to play Jalen Hurts last year, not Tua. By the way, can you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Tungavailoa. Tungavailoa.
Tungavailoa?
Tungavailoa. Yeah.
And he's got a brother?
Yes.
Is he a quarterback?
Yes.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, the whole family. Crazy. The whole family moved from Hawaii to metropolitan Birmingham, Alabama. All on the up and up, though. Naturally, just looking to diversify their real estate portfolio. Just, decide to move from Hawaii.
I hope you're not besmirching the what is it again?
Tungavailoa.
Tungavailoa family name. It might all be on the up and up. Maybe they have a ton of money. They're about to have a ton of money in a couple of years anyway.
That's true.
That kid's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, shoot, their kid got to Tuscaloosa from playing in Hawaii. I mean, surely.
I wonder if you could get a loan. I'm sure we got people that listen to stuff like this. How Jameis? I mean, they do it with the guys that are huge, big time college stars. You can take out an insurance loan.
Yeah.
You can take out like the Lloyds of London used to do it all the time. I remember that in the 80s. Like the Chris Webbers of the world, if they came back for another year, they just get this policy with Lloyds of London for $10 million in case they got hurt, which all college athletes should do that. But anyway, could they go to a bank in Birmingham and say, look, here's the earning power that our son will have in 2 years. Can we get a loan just on that?
Sure.
Live off that?
There's literally, I think, a bank branch or a cluster of banks called Bryant Bank in Alabama, and it's the family you would think is the Bryant family. So I'm sure they're like, yeah, we got
Kobe?
you.
Are you talking about Kobe?
Of course. The Black Mamba. Black Mamba.
No, Roll Tide.
Black Mamba, Roll Tide.
I mean, I guess you could do something like that, right?
Right. But what about Florida State's quarterback? Are they not in a better situation quarterback-wise this year than they were last year? Like if Francois plays against Wake Forest last year, surely they beat them by a bigger margin of victory than they did. You talking
about Wake? Yeah, probably. I would say again, it's you got 2 quarterbacks on the roster that were recruited to play a system that they're not playing. So again, in my opinion, and I think Francois has done really well this year, man, when he throws the ball. I hate it seems like I'm negative on him a lot, and I'm not. He's a really tough kid, and he really throws the ball well when he's got time. I just still don't think he's a great fit for this system. I don't know that he ever will be, but he wasn't recruited for this system. So my point would be last year, Blackman playing that system, yeah, this offense should be better than last year's with Francois running it, but to me it's just about the same.
Right.
Like the numbers are about the same. The numbers are almost practically the exact same as last year, except this year they moved the ball by passing it all the time, and last year they moved it with running. So, but the total yards and the points and everything are kind of really similar. And so to me, you basically have the same offense. I think you have a better quarterback, but it's a worse fit.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
so it kind of slows down. The offense just isn't the offense. I just, again, they put up 20 on Miami and really put up 27. They got screwed out of a touchdown. But yeah, I don't see how the offense can do enough to put up 30. And I think to beat Clemson, you're going to have to score somewhere in that neighborhood. Even if your defense plays pretty well, I think you're going to have to score somewhere in the neighborhood of 27 or 30. And I just don't know that this guy can do it.
Well, that was 3 weeks ago. It'll have been 3 weeks ago, and they've been getting better every single week. Continuity on the offensive line. I mean, hey, this is going to be, barring some sort of disaster in today's practice and the walkthrough tomorrow, this is going to be the same 5 guys lining up side by side for the first time consecutively for Florida State this year. It's always been something different, right? Like Dickerson's been in, Dickerson's been out, Jawan's been in, Jawan's been out, Bellows been in, Bellows been out. So they've got the 5 best guys that are healthy right now going side by side into battle. So that's a pretty favorable thing. On the note of Deondre Francois, do we really appreciate just how tough he is? I mean, ultimately you want to win football games. It's hard to, and we've saw him do it in 2016. But man, that kid really does get just bulldozed every Saturday. And
I think we do. I think everybody appreciated it in 2016, and then but he played better in that year than he had to start this season.
Yeah,
it also helped that he had Dalvin next to him, but so that took a little bit of the attention away. But he played better. I think this year people were at one point, especially in the Syracuse game. I mean, you feel bad for the kid, and he's tough, but I'm sure plenty of fans were like, "Well, then get rid of the ball, run then." Whatever. I think they were getting frustrated that he kept holding the ball so long and taking just vicious hits. But man, Willie said it in the press conference that he would have never, and we talked about this on Monday's show, that he would have never been that quarterback that stayed in there till the last possible second to take a hit like that. He would have tucked it and run.
Yeah, hell no. Screw
but
that.
I mean, so it's something to praise him for. He really is a tough quarterback, and quite frankly, it's hard to think of Florida State quarterbacks that haven't been tough. And I mean, going all the way back. I mean, Chris Ricks, say you want what you want about the guy.
Yeah.
Tough kid.
Yep.
Really tough, almost to a fault. And sometimes, quite frankly, I think DeAndre's tough to a fault because he stands in there till the last possible second and takes sometimes unneeded shots. And he has, again, we've talked about it. I know I'm a broken record, but he has so much ability, whether it's so much trust in his offensive line, it would seem, or did, that he keeps thinking they're going to block for 5 seconds until one of his receivers breaks free, to the point that he could suffer cracked ribs or something.
It should be a meme, one of those find you a girl who trusts you as much as DeAndre trusts his offensive line. Because
even if the girl should not trust you at all. Yeah. Like if you've given her ample reasons to call it quits, you still want a girl that's going to stand by you thick and thin, even if you give her plenty of reasons and you have old text messages out and Lord knows what else. Who would you send that picture to? That's always a fun conversation. I've actually never had that conversation, but I can't imagine the kids today what they go through.
Oh, geez.
With
Why'd you like her post on IG? Huh? How come you liked her post on IG? I saw you liked her post.
Or if you go through, we've never had in society back in the 80s and 90s, what were they going to do? Go through your journal?
Yeah.
Your diary? Now your whole diary is in photo form on your phone. Yeah. So if you just leave it open one time and go to the bathroom, a relationship could be over by the time you get back. It's just a crazy time to be alive, kids. I don't know how you teenagers, I'm sure we got a lot of teenagers listening to this show.
Oh, yeah.
How you guys do it. What a crazy, crazy world.
Some just rapid fire thoughts on DeAndre. Just wanted to say it made me think about his toughness because the whole day on Tuesday on the ESPN ticker on the bottom line.
Hey, real quick, can I ask you one personal question, real quick?
Okay.
And then we'll get back to DeAndre. Just real quick.
Fine. Go.
True or false? Have you ever sent? And I'm not talking about a nude, but have you ever sent a picture of yourself to someone?
To like a girl, like a photo?
Yes, not like a selfie, like, hey, I'm in front of the Statue of Liberty, but like
a photo
hey,
I wouldn't
I'm
want my
flexing
mother
in the mirror.
A photo I wouldn't want my mother to see, or I wouldn't want my friends
I'm
to see.
not talking about you in a weird pose. I'm just talking about or with like your finger on your lips. I'm talking about like seductive. I'm talking about like just flexing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't say that proudly, but you asked me an honest question.
Well,
we're
it's
family.
weird that I kind of pegged you for that. And I don't say that in a bad way either. I mean, but hey, man, you work out. I know you're proud of it. And real quick, did it pay off?
Yeah. I don't.
Okay, sweet. That's all. We don't have to go into anything else.
I mean,
so about DeAndre.
I worked in television, so I had to be judicious with who I let see certain things. So I'll say that. But no, the whole reason I was thinking about DeAndre and his toughness was that all day Tuesday on the bottom line on the ticker on ESPN, it's got like a dual headline thing. It's got a headline, then a sub-headline.
Yeah.
And the main headline was Derek Carr says he still loves being a Raider. And then the sub-headline was denies crying after taking a hit in week 6. Like, this is a thing that's going on right now. Like, supposedly there's a rumor that Derek Carr, the quarterback of the Oakland Raiders in the NFL, took a shot in week 6 and actually cried because of it. And then I'm just thinking about like DeAndre, maybe he cries in the tent. I wouldn't look down on him if he did so. It's just crazy that you have an NFL guy that might cry after getting hit, and then meanwhile Deondre Francois has had more chalk drawn around him than a Chicago PD homicide investigator.
Far be it from me, a writer and a talk show host to criticize anyone's toughest. I would never do it. Literally, I would never do it. If I got hit by an NFL lineman, I mean, I would cry. I would cry for my mom. I can't even imagine what I would do. Just quit, just walk off the field. But I think Francois, I think most quarterbacks obviously don't cry when they get hit. But I think Francois' toughness is it's just remarkable, because I don't know that there's ever been a quarterback that's been hit as much as him in Florida State history. And I'm not talking about just lightly. For some reason, he's just – I know they're supposed to have all these rules for quarterbacks, but I guess that's the NFL, not really college. But, I mean, he gets pulverized.
Yeah.
And I remember the Miami game specifically 2 years ago where there were at least 2 hits where the guy that hit him should have been kicked out of the game.
Oh, they're so late. Flagrant, blatant.
And under the chin, lifting him up. I mean, just awful hits. So, again, we talk Francois' teammates, Francois' ability to connect with teammates. I think how he is as a teammate. That's been a talking point a lot over the last probably 10 or 11 months, really a year, ever since the Snapchat incident. But man, they have to, if nothing else, even if they can't relate to him, even if they're not best friends with him, they have to respect that dude's toughness.
For sure.
They just have to. And it's just gotta. I know that, who was it? Was it Abdul Bello that tried to pick him up in the Syracuse game?
Yep. That was him.
Yeah, so I'm sure Abdul Bello didn't like getting shown up like that, and Francois probably didn't need to do it. I certainly understood the frustration, but he didn't need to react like that. But I also think that again, there's no way that Abdul Bello can't feel bad for what's happening. Like, his quarterback's getting pulverized, and those dudes, those tackles, have to feel awful about it. Can they block it up and be better? We'll see. They were better against Wake, but that was Wake. Can they keep? Because that's for real, man. That's a storyline going into this game. These are 4 NFL defensive linemen. These are all first or second round picks, and they're coming for him, man. They're coming for him, and he doesn't have a great protection. Can he survive? And I'm not talking literally, obviously. We don't want a literal chalk outline. Right. But can he survive this game for 4 quarters? Because these dudes are mean, aggressive, and fast. And so how can they keep him upright is the overriding thought going into this game for me. I don't expect them to be able to run at all. The only way they're going to be to move the ball is through the air. That kid's going to have – that's the thing too, man. To hit big plays in the passing game, you have to sometimes – stay in the pocket for 3 or 4 seconds. And there's going to be a couple times where he holds onto the ball probably a bit too long, and you hope he can get up from it. But by God, through a year and a half of starting at quarterback, he always gets up from it. Yeah. Except when his knee gets torn up.
Right.
by a Tallahassee kid, no less.
Thanks, Ronnie Harrison. Jerk.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing.
Oh, speaking of a Tallahassee product, you realize this week is also, I don't want to talk too much about this because it's really long right now, and I have a couple other thoughts about Deondre I want to say. It's the first ever Fisher Taggart Bowl this Friday. Godby High School versus Florida High. Trey Fisher.
No lie.
Versus
that's
Willie
right,
Taggart Jr. Yeah.
How's it? I haven't paid attention. Isn't Godby having a good year? Have you been keeping up?
Not really, but I did see because somebody was talking crap about Trey Fisher because they're a loser. He's got like 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He's doing really well. Apparently, Godby's got really talented wide receivers, so no one wants to give too much credit to Trey Fisher because his last name's Fisher. But that team apparently is rolling right now. But yeah, he's got like 18 touchdowns, 3 picks. So doing the damn thing.
I wonder if Jimbo could come to that game.
He was here last week apparently when they had the bye week. Texas A&M, he was in town.
I get it. I'm obviously they don't have a bye week this week, but I wondered if he could steal away on a Friday night he's got a private plane, so it'd be like 4 or 5 hours.
They got Mississippi State on the road. It's going to be
tough. I know how tough that Mississippi State team is.
Clanga. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. Although Willie's son's not playing quarterback right now, but it's just a funny thing. I'm not being serious about it. But the two things about Deondre, and I say this kind of half jokingly, but first, shout out to Deondre. It's the first time I actually interviewed him this season. Usually I'm talking to Walt the whole time, and then you guys go grab Deondre. I asked him a really stupid question, and he was polite about it. So hashtag growth. Shout out to Deondre, becoming a better human being every single day. And I say this kind of half jokingly in terms of, I don't know what they're going to be able to do to, neutralize Clemson's pass rush. But I feel like they need to bring George Whitfield out here and have him put Deondre through what Jameis did for Pro Day. Like run at him with baseball bats and brooms. Because I feel like that's what he's going to have to do. And I think he's capable of it because we see him do it in practice because they do drill it. It's just those things where, we talk about him hitching up in the pocket, but so much of I think is going to be like sidestepping pressure, moving up, and then maybe I think there's going to be big lanes open because there's going to be such a relentless pass rush coming from them. And with the amount of talent that Florida State has out wide, and they've shown that they'll throw the ball to anybody, they're going to have to be worried about anybody that's out running a route that, DeAndre is going to have to be able to do like the lateral movement to evade the rush and then move up and maybe run and then make some throws. Like literally know in your head, as soon as this ball touches my hand, I'm probably going to have to keep your eyes downfield, but keep your feet moving upfield as well too. It's the same thing that we've been talking about, him moving up in the pocket, but I wonder if they can. I don't know if that's it's almost like putting the wrong message in your quarterback's head, but just listen, man, on these plays, just be ready that once you make your drop, just get ready to start moving. You're not going to be a moving target. You are going to be a moving target. Don't be a sitting target for Clemson because he's shown the ability. He can be somewhat athletic and make some throws. So. I just hope that he's able to, maybe they can drill him this week to be prepared for it, to be ready for it, because he still did take a couple shots against Wake Forest, even though he wasn't technically sacked. So they'll need him upright as long as possible to pull off the upset. So that's all.
Yeah, and you'd like them to roll him out a lot, but it just doesn't happen. You cut away, you take 2 of the defensive linemen completely out of the play if you rolled out, really 3. But they just haven't shown any propensity to do that at all. So you think they should go out with bats and
not bats, it was brooms. Shovel? Well, when you remember Jameis's.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think you should have, when you were saying that, I'm like, what about 2 bears?
Black bear, brown
not
bear,
4 because that's
grizzly.
Dangerous. Yeah. But 2 black bears.
Okay.
And just steam, just full bore at him every snap.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. If PETA could be there to make sure we don't get bad publicity out of it, I think it'd be a good exercise.
What could you take teeth out of a bear, and then they wouldn't be as dangerous? I guess they could still
put a
claw
muzzle.
you.
You can put a muzzle on him. Muzzle up the bear.
Yeah, well there you go. Yeah, put a muzzle on a bear, and just 2 of them coming off the edge. Deondre, you got to scoot up. Otherwise, those 2. What do bears weigh? 1,200 pounds, 800 pounds. I don't know what a bear weighs, but they will pulverize you, man. You got to scoot up.
Or they could make it like Gladiator and just have tigers coming out of the ground, like trap doors,
Well, right, yeah, because you're playing the Tigers. I see what you're doing, Aslan.
Yeah.
That's next level. You're playing Clemson. They need to be Tigers.
Google just said that the average American black bear weighs 240 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
No way, really?
Grief. Just have Robert Cooper run at him then. 240 pounds for a bear?
That's crazy. That's what it says. I can't believe it. How much do male black males commonly weigh between 130 to 500. The largest known wild black bear was from North Carolina and weighed 880 pounds.
Okay.
That's a little more intimidating.
Probably won't get him, but maybe a couple 400-pound bears.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, that's pretty simple. So if anybody ever wants Corey Clark to be their head coach and you want your quarterback to learn to scoot up in the pocket,
that's what we're going to do.
Daddy's got some ideas for you.
That's how we're going to drill. All right, man, let's go to practice. We'll be back tomorrow. Renegade Express, get your questions in over on the Tribal Council and give us a call, 850-792-5730. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch up with you later.
It's football season in Tallahassee, and the only place to go for FSU apparel and merchandise is Garnet and Gold. Locally owned and operated by Seminoles for Seminoles for nearly 40 years. Garnet and Gold has the best selection of FSU merchandise in town, but what we really sell is tradition and passion to serve you, the true Seminole fans, at all three of our locations, West Pensacola Street, Killarn, and our flagship store across from Regal Cinema. Online at garnetandgold.com. Shop local and go Noles.